Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Lumi. You could call me Lulu, you could call me Lumi, you could call me Mimi, you could call me one from that selection. I am coming with a video that I filmed approximately a year ago, my second year of medical school review. If you guys don't already know, I study medicine at King's College London. A lot of my details are in the description box, so if you want to know more about that, look in the description box. I'll also have my King's College London playlist, my medicine playlist, and I'll have that all linked down below or up here in the cards. So essentially it's kind of still like my first year medical school review, but part 2, if that makes sense, but different. Let's just dive straight in. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about is how everything was online this year. So we all know that the pandemic hit, the panoramic hit, Panasonic hit, and we were all told to stay indoors. So towards the end of last year, it was a mess. It was very much given messy, no lectures, read your book, mind your business and sit your exam type thing. I would say that last year exams were terrifying, just terrifying completely. Imagine not even knowing like half the content that you need to know, and there's a whole exam based on that content. Yeah, just that. Moving into this year, everything was still online. However, we were encouraged by the university. Basically said if you do like a face-to-face type of subject or like a clinical subject, you need to find yourself like on campus, because you will need to be on campus to learn things that you can't do remotely. So I was like, okay, then I guess I have to get accommodation. And this is why I want to fight the university, because they led me on and they conned me out of 11k. That is a big con in my book from this year, that I only went to campus one time for a clinical skills session, which was my last timetable session of the year. Everything was online. So our lectures were pre-recorded lectures. A lot of them were PowerPoint based lectures, so you would just have the PowerPoint and then the lecturer would record themselves presenting the lecture, and that was what our lectures were like. This year our timetable was a bit more hectic, a bit more full than first year. So I had literally lectures back to back. I'd have like 5 lectures back to back, or I would keep working say from 8 a.m. and I wouldn't stop until it was about 6 in the evening, and that's just like my timetable sessions, and I'd have to get through those. So that was the layout of this year. We also had workshops and tutorials, because obviously I said that EMDP 1B, which is the second year, is more clinical based. So we had workshops to do with patient interaction, ethics, and I think that those workshops were, I would rate them perhaps a 7 out of 10. First thing I would say is it is very nerve-wracking to speak in front of your peers as if you're speaking to a patient. It's literally like you're doing a presentation. Secondly, you're speaking to a stranger, a complete stranger who is acting as a patient. So it's kind of that unknown world. And then the other level, which is extra difficult, is the fact that this isn't face-to-face. You are online, like you're sitting at a desk with your laptop, you're essentially FaceTiming someone, pretending to be a medical student in a hospital, trying to figure out the ideas, expectations. So I would say that I would honestly give those like a 6, 7 out of 10. Unfortunately, we had to do like essays as well with that work that we did, so you really had to get stuck in. So in terms of building that confidence, sure, it helped, but it was very uncomfortable and there really wasn't much support for it. If you had like crippling anxiety, you could easily just turn off your computer and like go. Thrown in the deep end type situation. But you know me, handled it like a G. You guys already know, you guys watch me do it. But yeah, that was the patient educator workshops, patient interaction workshops. We had many of those. We learned how to do the ISPA. We learned how to do handovers as well, so that when we do go on placements, we're not completely lost. A big thing when I said when we do go on placements, we're not completely lost, is how can they tell us to imagine we're hearing a murmur? We had a stethoscope workshop, so basically like a clinical skills workshop, and they essentially said, imagine you can hear it. We don't have stethoscopes. What do you mean imagine? King's College London. That's what I have to say. So that was essentially what was happening from our first semester. So actually it happened like all the way through. I won't lie to you guys. I told you the only clinical skills session was that singular day. Is still on that highlight, is still the highlight video on my page if you guys want to watch it. That was all I had. Then we had a lot of portfolio work. So this year we actually switched our portfolio onto a different platform. One thing about King's is they expect you to know how to navigate everything, and they give you a lot of information about that thing, but it's not clear exactly how to do that. Some people may say, do you want to be spoon-fed? But no, make it clear. You can't just say that there's a bunch of resources here, like find it, like specifically say what the resource is, link it down below, say what I can find there. Otherwise, like, why? I don't think I'm asking too much. Everyone found it difficult to navigate until randomly I found a PDF somewhere that basically like showed you how to navigate it. So do better. So, and I think it was also really bad because this year there was a lot of portfolio work to do. So I think the least they could do was actually teach people how to use this program. The big thing that threw me, the big thing that made me want to fight people, still makes me want to fight people, is the way that anatomy was taught this year. I would say that I think everyone knows that King's is not the best when it comes to teaching anatomy. I'm pretty sure, I think it's UCL or Queen Mary's that are really good when it comes to teaching anatomy. King's is really poor at anatomy, and I will say that with my whole chest. I struggled with anatomy this year, like wholeheartedly struggled, and especially because this year the module was a big fat module, which was literally like anatomy of systems. So we learned everything for the body apart from the head and neck with no formal dissection. And I'll repeat that. There was no formal in-person dissection, as in you did not get to see a cadaver. So little Miss Lumi here really struggled. I said, okay, this is my hands. I cannot see the muscles inside the hand, and I'm so sorry. I'm the kind of person that needs to do something to learn it. So I thrive really well of people asking me questions for me to learn, and I thrive really well in a in-person teaching environment. That is what really gets the knowledge in my head. That's why I loved tutorials last year. This didn't happen this year, and I'm pretty sure everyone struggled with that. I know that for a fact. They did give us resources, yes. Did they tell us where they were though? Did they even tell us what resources we had? Did they? The answer is no, they didn't. So I would say anatomy was really poor this year, and it's really upsetting. I went to my first dissection in my first year with my friend who is on the A100 course. So thankfully I'd already had that experience of seeing a cadaver. If I didn't, like, I don't know, I feel so bad for the students who came in this year because they legitimately had no experience of that. And the worst thing is the anatomy block that we did this year, we are not going to revisit it. So we actually don't get those dissections that we usually would have. I remember last year my friends had dissections, I think, every single week. So imagine their performance with anatomy if they got to see, first of all, the anatomy directors, ask them questions, second of all, actually see the cadavers, lead their own dissections. Imagine how much better their performances would have been compared to us. I didn't even smell a cadaver in the first semester. I didn't even step foot on campus. So really poor. King's had to do better if they're still planning to do like online learning next year, but I think it's going to be like a blended learning approach. To be fair, towards the end they did open up dissections. They named them open dissections, which is essentially what I did in my first year. You can just like book in and then you walk in and you lead your own dissection by yourself. So they did have open dissections, but I feel like they could have done so much more for the medicine students, especially for us who actually needed this during this module. If we're not going back to the module, then we need to learn it properly. Unfortunately, it was always booked out. Very hard to book onto these things. There was a technical term for the type of room it was, like well ventilated or open air, but you didn't need to have a mask on. That also means that more people could have been there, especially because of social distance. I believe more people could have been there. I believe they could have opened it up a bit more, and I think they could have opened up more slots because all of these people want to go there. Medicine is a huge course. There are a lot of people. King's Medics, there are a lot of people, so they really should have taken that into account. That is one massive negative thing, negative con, whatever you want to call it, about this year. year. Towards the end, I was able to go to some open dissections. I think in total I went to a dissection twice this year, and every single time I vlogged it, so you guys know when I went. You can like G-check me that I'm not lying. Yeah, I feel like this video compared to my last year video is a stark difference, because I am so like, and last year I was like, oh, I love kings, but I have to say the truth, and I have to say how this affected me. So yeah, so moving on, I'm just gonna compare the response to COVID at the end of last year and the response to COVID throughout this year. It's not the same. Online teaching is not the same as in-person teaching, and there is such a thing as lack of motivation because you're not in a certain environment. So last year when I did have my lectures, I had that sort of motivation with my colleagues, like my friends. We'd go to lectures together and like push ourselves to go to the lectures together, and we'd actually like learn. That sort of camaraderie is very, 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 very valuable, and you don't realize it until you don't have it anymore. So this year I could like literally just like turn off my laptop, like I don't want to do the lectures. And that is something that I did a lot, especially with the whole like emotions that comes with living by yourself in lockdown, being away from your family. The weather changes, there is barely any daylight, especially because my accommodation, the lift broke all the time, and I lived on the 6th floor, so I did not go out. I was stuck in my room all day, and I didn't want to work. In-person teaching, there's nothing like it, especially when you have that much like amount of lectures. Like, you guys don't understand how many lectures we had, and they were in parts. One lecture split into 5 parts. The people know who I'm talking about. If you're from Kings, you know who I'm talking about. So Keats is very hard to navigate in general. I actually ended up taking like a Keats course towards the end of this year to understand like the basics of working Keats. If you don't know what Keats is like the online program where everything is about kings. It's like the Moodle that you had in school. So very, very difficult to navigate. I advise you guys to take the classes. I think it's called the Digital Skills Program, and this was the first year that they were running it. So it really helps working out how to use Kings, Keats, and online exams. Guys, so remember when I told you all last year that exams at Kings are MCQs? Essentially, it's like you're doing your driving theory but at home. Just that same sort of situation. Sat at the computer, they put the time, and then you just go, and then when it ends too. But why was it? I'm so sorry. I know that the fact that it being online and it basically like, because it's remote, it's basically open book, and I understand that, and I know that you guys gave us extra 11 minutes. I know that's a lot that you guys gave us, but what is with the application questions? Why are you asking me questions as if I'm a GP? Why are you asking me questions as if I've been on the wards to see these things? What do you mean? This person came, she presented with a cough, high fever. What is the articulation of the bone in her arm? Excuse me, what does that mean? I said, what does that mean? How are you telling me all of this story and you're telling me identify which nerve from the brachial plexus is affecting this part of her arm? Because I didn't answer those questions. We knew about this before, so I'm not just complaining out of nowhere. We knew that possibly there would be a few application questions to make it harder. Granted, you can't just answer multiple choice. Like, why is the vast majority of the exam application questions when we actually didn't have the opportunity to consolidate the knowledge, learn in such a way for us to be able to apply this knowledge to answering the questions? From the results though, I think people did well regardless. I hate online exams, and especially because I'm so thankful that I was able to have in-person exams in my first year. I can't imagine the stark difference, or the change it would be for next year doing in-person exams for people who have never experienced the big Olympia Hall. If you didn't know, King's students do their exams at Olympia Hall in West London, like Kensington area, and it's a huge hall, like huge, seats like hundreds, so nothing compared to what you did at A-level. If you're nothing compared to that, imagine like that but times 5. Yeah, so I'm just kind of not looking forward to that. Number one, the anxiety of going back to in-person exams. I don't think I could do it. But yeah, that was my core evaluation of how medicine was taught. My thoughts and my feelings were, I really didn't like second year. It was just a lot to do. I think second year went as a whole, like in terms of my academics, I struggled a bit, but I passed. I do think that I went through a bit of a learning curve. I understand like how I want to take my notes, how I want to revise, how I want to go like moving forward. Obviously my experiences are personal to me, so someone else might have experienced something different or felt something different, but that's the way that I felt at the end of second year. PBLs were fun, but they did feel like a nuisance at some point. It just felt like every single week I had to be doing research on a case when all I wanted to do was revise and learn my anatomy. Yeah, that was my second year experience. That was my second year thoughts. I don't think I have any more to say about it. Yeah, hopefully next year's better. I'm excited for placements because if you guys don't already know, I'm a vaccinator, so I'm already like starting that interaction with patients and all of that stuff. So just excited to get things done and just keep progressing. At the end of next year, I'll be halfway through medicine. So that's it for my review on medicine second year or first year part 2. I think overall I will rate it a 6 out of 10. Pandemic played a lot in that. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was informative. I hope I was able to answer questions that you guys may have had or do have. If you do want to ask me any questions, my DMs are always open. I always respond. Any relevant videos or playlists I will link in the description box, or they will be linked up here in the cards. I will see you all in my very next video. Don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe. That's it. Bye.